Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stands. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. As ever, lots to talk about. We're going to be talking about a few lads going out on loan. We're going to talk about, I've got a bit of an update on Camavinga, Marcus Rashford, David De Gea, Roy Keane at 50. I wish we had Roy Keane at 25 in our midfield, to be honest with you. We'll be talking about that. And of course, Pogba's last dance. It is Pogba's last dance, I think. Last dance, last chance, Ollie's last dance. Man United's last dance? I don't know. But it is. We've got an update from Sky Sports about Paul Pogba as well. Seems to me that Manchester United, Paul Pogba, have settled, are happy and focused on this season, but probably will be his last season. We'll talk about that. I also want to talk tonight about rivals a little bit as well. Who out of our rivals are we really scared of? We're talking about United. We're talking about our chances. We're talking about how well we might do this season. But is that actually relevant when you look at what our rivals might be? So I want to go through our rivals, and don't worry, if you're an Arsenal fan you can switch off and go and watch the telly because we ain't talking about you. I said rivals. Anyway, let's get on with the show. And just before I get on with the show, as you can see, we are sponsored by Manscaped on the show today. We've got some absolutely huge news from them, but as ever, they are sponsoring the show and they are giving you, the United Stand viewer, an exclusive 20% off plus free shipping worldwide. And what is it I always say? Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Or you can relate it to Manchester United and say, trim the squad to make the team look better. So the news, the huge news is that Manscaped have released the new 4.0 lawnmower, and this means there's never been a better time to join 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their balls with this exclusive offer that I've mentioned. So what's so good about the lawnmower 4.0? It's got a new multifunctional on and off switch and travel lock created for people who like to travel. The ability to turn the LED light on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Nearly took my eye off there. It won't do. No, not do that. The new trimmer. Imagine if I did that and went down my face. It looks stupid. And I've already used it down there. The new trimmer allows you to customise your trim all over with additional guard lengths. So you're a bit like, you trim your hair. You can trim your bush at different lengths. It's sleek with a two-toned matte and gloss finish, even featuring a hot foil stamped black chrome Manscaped logo. Very fancy. And of course, its wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. Very, very fancy. It makes this last longer. This just trims down there. It won't make that last longer. Alongside the new Lawnmower 4.0, Manscaped have also launched their brand new performance package. And inside you'll find various items like the Weed Whacker, the Crop Preserver, the Crop Reviver, and very comfy boxer shorts and a travel bag. So what are you waiting for? Links in the video description. 20% off, as I said, and free worldwide shipping. What's the Weed Whacker? Well, without it, I'm so busy. When I promote this is when I actually do it, because I never get any time. But yeah, as you get older, that's fantastic. And it does your ears, but I'm not that old yet. So big shout out to Manscaped. Trim your bush, trim your grass to make your yard look bigger. And Ollie, trim your squad to make your team look better. I've said that twice. I don't know whether it hit the first time. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Thank you very much to Manscaped. Always a fun integration with Manscaped. And on a serious note, a very good product. I feel a lot better down there and up there. Anyway, let's move on. Let's start off with Paul Pogba. I think this season could be Paul Pogba's last dance at Manchester United. Sky Sports have reported this afternoon, and it's not really transfer news, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, although it is a little bit regurgitated. They're saying that Manchester United, Paul Pogba, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer are very relaxed, focused and excited about the new season. That level of professionalism and respect is there, which was there from Christmas to the end of season last year. And whilst Manchester United are very aware and wary that Pogba may not sign a new contract and run his contract down, everybody is going into this season open-eyed and happy. So ultimately, what we're looking at, we've said it about Cavani, we're now going to say it about Paul Pogba. I think we've got to be realistic. For me, I've been realistic about this since March. I've said this. I've said this. I think he's going to run his contract down. I think it's absolutely nailed on that he runs his contract down. But maybe he won't. Maybe he'll sign a contract at some point, but he's certainly not going to be signing a contract this month, and he's not going to be sold this month. In fact, they're saying that if PSG wanted to sign Paul Pogba, they'd have to sell 10 players. 10 players to sign Paul Pogba, which did get me thinking about Camavinga. How many players do they need to sell to get Camavinga? Because, all right, Pogba's better than Camavinga, but you've still got to pay for Camavinga. Pogba would probably go for 50 million and be on about 400k a week. Camavinga's going to go for about 25 million and be on about 150 grand a week. So they'd still have to sell to do that, surely. It's not like they can just get Camavinga but they can't afford Pogba, because the financials are different, but they're not hugely different. So, yeah, I think with Pogba... Yes, so PSG, as we've heard before, probably saying to Pogba, wait till next summer. I mean, if you're PSG, you're a big fan of signing people for free. Wijnaldum, Ramos, Messi, Donnarumma. Yes, this summer, those four for free. So, you know, PSG, not only are they the richest club in the world, but they're also the jammiest club in the world because they get all these players for free. Of course, they're paying them big money to do it. So Pogba probably could go to PSG next summer, but it's not going to happen this month, which, look, to be honest with you, I think many of us probably predicted that anyway by now. But what did get me thinking is, because I am getting very excited about the new season, is that we've had Michael Jordan's last dance. I think this is Paul Pogba's last dance at Manchester United. And that, to me, is what I want to build around Manchester United on this early days of the season, these pre-days of the season. We know it's Cavani's last year. It's surely Matic's last year. It's probably Pogba's last year. There are a number of players that we're going to have to replace next summer. So it feels like, you know, we were talking about this can't be a season of progress. It can't be a work in progress. We can't be talking about the future. It's nonsense, because this has to be our year to get into it and go for it. Pogba's last dance at Manchester United. Let's go do it. I think that's really important. I already know I'm going to love this new show today. Another idea down the line. Can you rate the top 15 best Manchester United players ever? Says Emil Garcia. Okay. Well, look, I do want to rank the rivals that we're going to play, because I do want to sort of start, you know, we're getting closer and closer. I woke up this morning and thought it was Wednesday. I've never done that, apart from when it is Wednesday. But I did think it was Wednesday, because I was like, ooh, you know, it's and closer to Saturday and the start of the season and everything like that. And, you know, Ollie's first press conference of the season is always very exciting. Varane obviously is going to get announced. Will he play? Will Sancho play? But I do want to talk about not just United, about the season ahead and where the threats are and how big those threats are. Barca will give number 10 shirt to Dembele so that no one would see anyone wearing number 10 again on the pitch, says Aditya. That's a good little joke there. But before we do that, I just want to go through some topical news. There's another story about Camavinga that I've read tonight, that Camavinga wants to go to PSG. I really don't think this is a transfer blow. I don't, otherwise I would have done it as a show. But I don't think this is a transfer blow. I don't think we need to be worrying about Camavinga in PSG. If he goes to PSG, he goes to PSG. You know, what are you going to do? Manchester United will either get Camavinga or they won't. And I know that sounds very obvious, but if he wants to go to PSG and PSG don't want him, well, he probably comes to Manchester United. If PSG can get him, and I don't know why they would get him, they've got a lot of players, PSG, then maybe he's going to wait a year as well. But if Pogba's going to wait a year, are they going to get Pogba and Camavinga next year? Maybe PSG and Camavinga doesn't work. And also, we've heard that Camavinga wants to go to Spain. Why does he want to go to Spain? Be better off going on a holiday to Magaluf for a couple of weeks. At least you can come back. You go to bloody Real Madrid or Barcelona, you're going to regret that. You're going to really regret that, because I'm telling you now, that La Liga issue is not going to be solved quickly. I do think Barcelona and Real Madrid will bounce back, but I don't think they're going to bounce back quickly. The Real Madrid team still has superstars in it, but they're ageing stars. Barcelona, well, they're reliant on bloody youngsters coming through. So I think it's a long journey back. And if Camavinga wants to be part of that long journey, fine, crack on. But I think your best bet at the moment is Manchester United or PSG. And look at PSG, I think your best bet is Manchester United. So we'll see what happens with Camavinga, but I'm not too worried about it. I think the reality is, if I'm absolutely honest, around recruitment at the moment and around sales, it's gone quiet. And I think it's gone quiet because United are very focused on the Leeds game. And also, I think we're in that 3 weeks out from the end of the transfer window. I think the next week, maybe even the next week and a half, is very uncertain because teams are starting to... It's almost like who's going to twitch first. Who would be your first choice midfielder to sign, says Andrew McGrath? Well, I've always liked Declan Rice, so that would be my ideal. Realistic, but we just won't spend that money. Hi Mark, why isn't the United stand on Sky Sports, says Jack Halloway? Well, it's a bit like saying why isn't Match of the Day on ITV or BT Sports, because we're the United stand. We're the biggest Manchester United fan channel on YouTube. We don't need to be on Sky Sports. Good evening, Sally Devil Red 7 says, I have. Are you scared Chelsea have gotten Lukaku? I'm going to talk about that, Sophia. I want to talk about the rivals. I want to talk about who is a threat and how they compare to us. I'm looking forward to doing that, but I want to just get through the topical things. Do you know who Mark Goldbridge clips are? No, I don't, AJ, but I'll probably shut them down because I haven't got a bloody clue who they are, and they've never asked to use my content, which I think's cheeky. If PSG need to sell, who would you bring Herrera back? Says, if PSG need to sell, who would you bring Herrera back? No, the beast. No, I wouldn't, because if you look at it, Herrera is what, 32 now? 31, 32 in 4 days' time. I do like Ander Herrera, but we're looking for a longer term solution, a longer term solution, and we should sign Job Bellingham before Dortmund do, says TH30. He's 15. He's not going to solve our midfield problems now, is he? You need to start engaging your brains, everybody. We're looking for a midfielder for now. We don't want old people and we don't want young people. We want somebody for now. Somebody who's going to come in for now and be here so that we can build around. We've already got our old's Matic. This is something that I'm really bad at. Ricky's messaging me right now. I'm telling you now, he's 33, Mark. He's just turned 33. He was 33 last week. Matic. So, Mark, news about Luka Jovic. Oh, Rob, watch the shows. Watch the shows, Rob. I spoke about it this morning. It's a load of nonsense, Rob. Luka Jovic is not coming to Manchester United because you need to listen to the shows better. Listen to the morning show, the news show, and you'll find out what stories are good and what are bad. Anthony Martial's not for sale. It was a load of nonsense. So what happened is nonsense outlets started talking about Martial to Inter. They added 2 and 2 and they got 6. Oh, Lukaku's going to Chelsea. Oh, Inter have got a little bit of money. Oh, some United fans don't like Martial. Oh, Inter want Martial. Oh, United are going to replace Martial with Jovic. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. We were never selling Martial to Inter. They were not looking to buy him anyway. And we were never looking at Jovic. Can't see us getting within 10 points of City and Chelsea, says Sean Turner. And I feel we're so unprepared this season. Terrible pre-season. We're going to talk about that, Sean. We will talk about that. First of all, bit of good news. Marcus Rashford. Bridge. Marcus Rashford has had his surgery. He's been tweeting about it. He's been using the other hand because it's that shoulder. He's not got much else to do at the moment, Marcus. Can't even play FIFA. At least he's got... what? Anyway, Marcus Rashford's had his old shoulder injury and he's had his operation. He had it last Friday. It went very, very well. We are told that Rashford will be back around October time. So, again, don't rush Rashford. Don't be Rushford. Be Rashford. Don't be rash either. Just relax. Be Marcus Relaxford. That's what you need to be. Relax. Enjoy the break. I know he won't because he's a footballer and he wants to play. But I would think if I was you, Marcus Rashford, it's like recovering from an illness. The longer you take, the more recovered you will be. And if you force yourself back, the more chance you'll pick up an injury. That rhymes. So I think for Marcus Rashford, I would just say in my head, I'm going to come back on October the 14th. Which I think is the weekend after the international break. I think the next international break runs from October the sort of 4th or something like that. I think we've got a game on October the 2nd or 1st, and then it's international break. So he should be looking to come back mid-October. There's no point coming back for the international break, is there? So that's what Rashford should do. And think about how recovered his ankle will be and his shoulder will be. Think how grateful that ankle and shoulder are going to be. Not that they're going to talk to him and say thanks for the rest. That would be ridiculous. But the longer... I'd just say middle of October I'm back. And then I'm going to be back from the middle of October all the way through till next May. Fantastic. That's what he needs to do. Calm himself down. Get a good relax. Big season for Rashford. And hopefully next big few years as well, because he's been carrying these injuries for a couple of times. So Rashford's had the surgery, which is good. There's a little bit of development around loan deals. I thought Mengi'd gone on loan. He's not gone yet. Rooney's been basically saying he'll take anything. And that's nothing to do with anything. He's talking about football. He's not out on the drink or anything. Mark, I agree with Sean Turner. So can we please talk about his valid points, says Andy and Bruno. Yes, it's one of the topic points. We're going to talk about the rivals. But I have to talk to you about the news first. So, yes, James Garner is also up for grabs. Rooney said he wouldn't mind him either. basically he wouldn't mind anything. There's an update from Fabrizio Romano just come out as well. Rafael Varane had the first part of his medical today after his quarantine period finished. Tomorrow he's going to complete the medical process. In the next 24 to 48 hours he'll sign the contract as a new Manchester United player. So he's not completely done it yet then. Medical done today in one part, the rest of it tomorrow. So probably not training with United tomorrow, which means he will be not probably playing against Leeds. Tomorrow morning is when his medical will be completed, apparently. So there you go. That's the latest on that's the latest on Varane that has just come out. He's had his first part of his medical and will finish it tomorrow. In the next 24 to 48 hours, he will sign. Interesting. Probably puts him out. I've got to agree with Abdi. I've never heard of half a medical before. I don't know why you'd have one half and the other. I've never heard of that, splitting a medical. In all my time as a fan of football and all the medicals we've had to watch and wait for over the years, I can't think of that happening ever. Grant Fisher says, Mark, is Ollie's lack of ruthlessness one of the bigger issues with players not leaving who shouldn't be with the club, like James and Jones plus more? Yeah, but look, people will say Ollie has been ruthless because he got rid of Fellaini and he got rid of Lukaku and he got rid of Sanchez. So Ollie can be ruthless. I just think if he likes you, he doesn't feel like being ruthless. I don't know. Probably could be to do with COVID. Yeah, I think it's got to be something to do with COVID. A few people are mentioning there it must be something to do with the COVID protocols. So maybe he's done part of his medical today to do the rest tomorrow. But I don't know. But the rest tomorrow. Garner looking to go on loan. Big list of teams looking for him. Unfortunately, there's no real mention of Championship, of Premier League clubs. Remember, he did start off at Watford last year, so that's probably not a good move for him. There's talk of Derby, there's talk of Nottingham Forest again, and there's talk of Stoke. I mean, for me, I'd go to Forest. I think Forest is the right club for him. He did very well there last year, and I think there's something about stability. I think Garner did well at Forest. They appreciated him. I would rather he went to Forest than Stoke. Stoke just makes me think. Meh. And also Derby, I don't think that's a very stable background at all. I mean, Rooney's new in the job. There's lots of problems at Derby. All sorts of rumours about issues at Derby. I don't think Derby's the right club for Garner. Just because but you know what? Ollie might go, it's Rooney Kadeki, let's send Garner. And I'm like, I actually think Forest would be the better bet because he's been there before. Or hopefully, maybe a Brighton or something like that. Mark, can we realistically trim down our massive squad this transfer window? I don't think Manscaped could trim down that squad, Rezwan. See what I did? 20% off, worldwide shipping for free. No, I don't think we are going to chop it down. I don't think we're going to chop that squad down at all, which is obviously unfortunate. It's a huge squad. I don't know whether it's still there. It is. Look, they're everywhere. There's too many. But I don't think we're going to trim it down, to be honest with you. Also, I want to talk about the rivals, but I am going to talk a little bit later in the show about Roy Keane at 50, because that's a big, big birthday for Roy. Happy birthday to Roy Keane. I know he watches it. That's nonsense. Big birthday for Roy Keane. Roy Keane, 50. That makes me feel old. That really makes me feel old. But yeah, I wish we had Roy Keane at 25, but we'll talk about that. Also, I totally missed it last week. David De Gea has been at Manchester United for 10 years. Last week was his anniversary of 10 years at Manchester United. So, 10 years since his first appearance for United. He's been talking about that and he said, look, you know what? I feel good and I feel that I'll be here for many more years. And I hope that's going to be the case because he's only 30 years of age, David De Gea. And that is no age for a goalkeeper. And if we can get the best David De Gea back, I think it's absolutely a massive bonus for Manchester United. Whatever you think about Henderson, I still think De Gea is, if we can get him back at his best, he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And that won't change. Watching United stand for so long has inspired me to start my own channel related to gaming. You and your team's impact on others is bigger than you realise. Thank you, says Atalia. Thank you very much, mate, and I hope your gaming channel goes well. David De Gea deserves a testimonial. He should get. I don't know why I wouldn't get one. I don't know. Not convinced James Garner is good enough, says Sean O'Sullivan. We do not think he is ready, but we're looking to get Camavinga as a CDM, who is 2 years younger. Sean O'Sullivan. Yeah, but I think that this is where I do think James Garner's good enough. I do think he's not ready. And obviously you can compare the fact that Camavinga's 2 years younger. I get that. Totally and utterly understand that. But it doesn't work like that. And I think the best example is Cristiano Ronaldo's 36 and still one of the best players in the world. Wayne Rooney's that age and he's managing and hasn't been one of the best players in the world for probably 8 years. And, age, Ronaldo's better than Rooney now at 36 than Rooney was when he was 28, because Rooney was finished at 28. So age is different. And what will Camavinga might be potentially one of the world's best midfielders. James Garner might not be that. So I don't think Fabregas was playing in the midfield for Arsenal at 18. Vieira wasn't. Who was better, Fabregas or Vieira? So I don't think you can judge it on age, really. I'd look at Sandro Tonali. He's 21 and he's touted as one of the best in his position for his age, and we could get him for a good price from Milan. I love Tonali, Raz. I wish we'd gone for Tonali in the past, but I don't think we will. Funny when Fellaini, Sanchez go, it's Ollie. When Jones and other kind of garbage is still at the club, it's salary or the back staff. Sign for United.org, says Tabras. Right, let's talk about the rivals. This is what I really wanted to talk about tonight, because if it's to be Pogba's last dance, the whole point of a last dance is that you win the last dance. You win the title. And then I think, you know what? If United won the title this year, I would wave Paul Pogba off with a big thumbs up. I'd be going like that. Or I could just wave with that hand. But no, I think that would be it. That would be the dream for it to happen. Now, I don't know whether people... how does Paul Pogba fit into a Manchester United team if we're going to win the league is a very good question in itself, and maybe we can discuss that. But I do want to talk about who are the threats for Manchester United, and even with Varane and Sancho, Pogba staying, how do you compare us to everybody else? Because like Beth predicted we're going to win the league, I predicted third. I think was it Adam said second, and I think Ricky said third or fourth as well. But look at the opposition. How do we compare to the opposition? And I'm not going to throw loads of teams into this. I really am not. The big three I want to look at are Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool. And I don't mind looking behind us, but to be honest with you, I'll answer this now. If we finish behind Villa, Arsenal, Spurs, I'll be absolutely disgusted. And we won't have Ollie as manager anymore. Leicester could be an unknown quantity, but I still expect us to finish above them because of the quality. Look, we've got Varane and Sancho. They haven't got one player that comes anywhere near that level. So, and we've got Bruno, and we've got Maguire, and we've got Shaw, and we've got Pogba, and we've got Rashford, and we've got Cavani. So, we should be finishing above Leicester. For me, it's the comparison of the top four, because we have to finish in the top four. Sean Turner says, I think we'll sign a midfielder, but one we ain't been linked with. A team will offer us a bargain, and that's what we're waiting for, says Sean Turner. Yeah, Harry Winks. No way are we finished behind those teams, Alpha Gaming. Yeah, so I'm not going to analyse those teams because I think it's just a waste of time when we could be talking about interesting things. But look, I think first of all, let's talk about... and it doesn't matter what order we talk about them in. Let's talk about Manchester City. There is this common feeling that if you finish above Man City, you win the league. I think that's disrespectful. I saw Ben Chilwell ask that question of Chelsea today, and I think that's disrespectful. If Chelsea think they finish above Man City and they win the league, that's disrespectful to Liverpool, and it's disrespectful to Manchester United, because I think that you don't know how this is going to work out this year. But in relation to Manchester City, They are the favourites. Of course they are the favourites. I've tipped them to win the league. I did it on my Premier League prediction show. They've got two teams. They literally have got two teams. They've got quality centre-backs like Laporte and that they can bring in. I nearly said Ake and then I moved on. Their midfield has got Fernandinho, Rodri. It's got Gundogan. It's got De Bruyne in there. They've brought Grealish in. They've got De Bruyne. I believe they will get Harry Kane at some point. I really do think they will get Harry Kane, and that makes them very strong with the coaching setup they've got, headed up by Pep Guardiola. Do I think Manchester United can beat Manchester City? Well, look, you can clip it, you can moan about it, you can do whatever you like, but I've seen bad Manchester United sides under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer beat very good Pep Guardiola sides. And that could be because it's a Manchester derby. That could be many reasons, but of course I think we can beat them. I don't think beating Man City in a head-to-head, that's not how you look at this. This is not how you look at titles. I've seen United win enough titles, and I know many of you have. I don't look at can we beat Man City in relation to will we finish above them. I remember Liverpool beating us home and away. I think that year when Torres put Vidic on his arse, was it 2009 or something like that? They beat us home and away, and we still won the league. So you run off with your beat us twice, we'll go off with the league. And ultimately, we can beat Man City. I know we can beat them at the Etihad, and I know we can beat them at Old Trafford, and I think we can do it next year. Difficult game, they could beat us, but the way to finish above Man City, obviously it helps if you take 6 points off them, but ultimately it's the ability to go to Newcastle, go to Southampton, go to Brighton, go to Arsenal and just keep winning. That's how you win the league. That's how you get 90 points, which is what we're going to have to do to win the title. Do I think we can do that compared to Man City? No, I don't. I think when I compare us to Man City, I think that it's not the head-to-head, it's what they're going to do on the road. It's what they're going to do at the Etihad. They're very good at not conceding goals and breaking teams down, and not many teams know how to beat them. So Man City, I think consistency is the word I'm looking at, aren't I? And I think they're very well drilled in how to do that, and I think they'll be very focused on that. So I think even with Varane and Sancho, I still think that consistency, and also let's not forget we are bringing 2 new players in. There has to be that sort of leeway of bedding in period a little bit as well. So I think Man City would, for me, be above us. Of course they would, because of their consistency and their experience in being consistent. Lukaku could probably show Ollie up if he does well, says Harry Jones. Well, let's talk about Chelsea next, because I personally think, again, when it comes to Chelsea, we can beat them. We can beat them in a head-to-head. We'll be good enough to beat anybody this season. I think we can beat anybody. I think we can beat anybody in Europe. I think we can beat PSG. Why can't we beat PSG? Harry Maguire and Varane, good goalkeeper. Sancho, Rashford, Bruno, Pogba, Cavani. Sort the midfield out. Obviously, that's the big area. But I think, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, we can beat these teams. The issue we've got with Chelsea is, again, their consistency from Christmas to the end of the season was when Tuchel came in was very good. But having said that, in the league, they still did drop some points. And I think that might be Chelsea's undoing when they're trying to go with Man City as well. This year is going to be about consistency. Do I think we can match Chelsea? I do. I still think that Manchester United are closer to Chelsea than you think. We finished above them in the league last year. We finished above them in the league before that. Yes, they won the Champions League, and wow, that was impressive, and I wish we had. But I'm not buying into the fact that Chelsea are suddenly better than United because they've got Lukaku. They're better than United because they won the Champions League and they only had Tuchel for half a season, so they can say, well, if we'd had him for a season, we would have finished ahead of you. But you know what? We've got Sancho and Varane and we're going to win the league. Speculative. I think that Chelsea and Manchester United in relation to league might be a little bit closer than people are thinking. And so therefore, I think Chelsea are a very good side. I think they've bought well. I think Tuchel's very good. I think they're well organised, and I think Lukaku will suit them very, very well. But I'm not massively worried about Chelsea running away with it. Man City, yeah, they're a massive challenge. Chelsea, against the fact that might not happen. Sorry, just dropped out there. You should have me back now. Sorry, I should be back. Should be back now. Don't know why that happened. It's not happened in a long time. Don't know where I was in the video when it happened. Need to stop being come from behind FC, says Nicky Cadigan. Nothing wrong with being come from behind FC if you win. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Apologies about that. That's not happened in a long time. I haven't actually plugged my Ethernet in, so that was probably a lesson for myself. Yep, you haven't. You're relying on wireless, and we were wireless. Yes, always use your Ethernet cable if you're streaming. That was a silly thing of me to do. Yes. So I was just talking about Chelsea there, and I was saying, I think that they will be a threat, but I'm not necessarily saying that they worry me as much as Man City do, because they don't. But on Zanderberg, what I was saying about Zanderberg is, you know what, I am just going to do this while I'm live. On Zanderberg, because I don't want it to go again, on Zanderberg, I have said it a few times this summer, do not sleep on Zanderberg. And what that means is, don't go to bed with him, because, he might be married or something like that. But what I mean is, do not sleep on Sander Berg coming to Manchester United. He ticks a lot of the boxes. Are we back again? Yeah. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why it's doing this. It should stabilise now. I've gone to Ethernet. I think it was because it was going from Wi-Fi to Ethernet midstream. So there you go. We've lost. You know what? That always amazes me as well. Can I just because you're the hardcore watchers, can I just say this, right? We had 10,500 people watching. The stream disappeared for 15 seconds and it goes down to 8,800. So 2,000 people go, I ain't waiting. Why should I wait for 10 seconds to see if it comes back? I'm off. I'm off for a walk. I'm taking the dog out. If we stop going behind all the time, then we can rotate more without worrying about equalising or scoring a winner, says Nicky Cadigan. Yeah, I know what you mean. It was a joke about coming from behind. It wasn't anything to do with football. If you know, you know. But look, Sanderberg, very unlikely to happen, but I have been told a few times, don't sleep on Sanderberg, which means to me that maybe that could happen. And if it does happen, then there you go. But I mean, look, the latest headline on Sanderberg is Sanderberg could be Rafa Benitez's new Xavi Alonso. So, you know, it's like that. Arsenal interested as well, but he's Norwegian. He's got similar attributes to Nemanja Matic. You think Ollie'd be all over that. Kariki. Who's Sanderberg, Kariki? I'm watching United stand with Goldbridge and he's mentioned a Norwegian who's like Matic who's called Sanderberg. Who is he, Kariki? I feel stupid. Get the scouts out, Kariki. I've never bloody heard of him. I feel we've got to get him. Don't sleep on Barella. Inter looking to sell, says Sean Turner. I like Barella, but I don't think we will go for him. The sad thing is about the midfield situation, and we're going to talk about Liverpool next, but the sad thing about the midfield situation is there's so many midfielders that we could go for. There really is, but you know. Jay says, Mark, what's your opinion on Hannibal's path this season? Looks too good for youth football and hasn't been given a loan yet. What a great super chat, Jay. Not just because it's a super chat. You can do a super chat. If you want to do a super chat, you can do it through the $sign. If you want to be a member like Lake or Sally Devil Red 7, you can do that by clicking the join button, or Daniel Hansen. But I am going to talk about Liverpool. We've just spoken about Manchester City and we've just spoken about Chelsea and their threat. We're talking about the rivals and we'll talk about Liverpool next. But can I just say, I'm not mocking Ollie, by the way. It's affectionate. Karaki, he's an accent. Oh, no one ever sticks up for Jim White. Slow sports news, Jim White. Oh, when I do Ollie, Karaki, it's like, oh, you can't do that. Well, I can. It's an impression. But great point about Hannibal, because I was thinking about that today. Hannibal Mabry scored a fantastic goal again for the under-23s today. Really good goal if you search it. And it just got me thinking. I think Hannibal could have Mason Greenwood's breakthrough season. Now, before you get mad, Mason Greenwood's breakthrough season wasn't World Player of the Year. It was, oh, this lad's talented. Let's develop him. And that's what I'm talking about. I think Hannibal Mabry could have a breakthrough season this season. But he's not going to have it because where is the path to the first team? Ahmad is better than Hannibal. We can't get him any bloody game time. How are we going to get Hannibal game time when we can't give game time to Ahmad? Because we can't give him game time because you've got Mata, you've got Lingard, you've got Dan James. Those players are going to be ahead of Hannibal and Ahmad. So this is the sad thing. I do think Hannibal, if he was under Sir Alex Ferguson, would be getting game time this season because he's very, very talented. And this is one thing that I would say keep your eye on over the next 2 years. I don't believe Ollie's promotion of the youth is actually that good. I think he talks about it. I think he lets them train with the first team, but I don't think he really uses them in the first team. And I think Hannibal is one of those players that could break through this season, but he's not going to do it. Sanderberg is an average player and we need better, says Tabraz. Well, you know what? Sanderberg missed a lot of last season for Sheffield United injured. When he did come into Sheffield United the year before, a lot of people said he looked really, really good. So, look, maybe we're not going to look at Sanderberg. I've certainly not heard anything official, but I did get told by a couple of people, watch this space. And that was about 3 months ago. So I've always kept that in my head. Hi, I hope Barca have to sell De Jong for cheap, says Raza. Yeah, but loads of people would go for De Jong, wouldn't they? I'd love De Jong at Manchester United, by the way. He'd be absolutely perfect for that holding midfield role. He really, really would. Berg is actually a good player, just not United standard, says Misha. He's probably going to end up going to Arsenal or Everton, isn't he, first? A mid-table club before he comes to a top 4 club. Anyway, we've spoken about Chelsea. We've spoken about Manchester City. We've spoken about the threats, and what I basically said so far is Man City for me are the threats. They're going to be more consistent than us, I think. They're going to be very hard to keep close to. If you're going to have a title challenge, you've got to stay close to these teams as well. Chelsea, I think we can stick close to Chelsea. If we do our job, I think we can stick close to Chelsea. But Man City's relentless consistency might be hard to keep up with. Liverpool are really, for me, it's interesting with Liverpool. Liverpool fans are mixed. Some of them are worried. Some of them are saying we're going to do really well. I think Liverpool are really, really weird because a year ago they won the title and they were comfortably the best team. Last year they were nowhere near. What's going to happen this year? Now, a lot of people think Liverpool are going to bounce back. A lot of people think Liverpool won't ever be as good as they were because their team is a bit older now. I look at Liverpool and I have to say I think they're really hard to predict. I think Man City, I know they're going to be, if they do what they can do, their consistent levels, they're going to be posting 90 plus points. Chelsea, I think Chelsea could be anywhere between 75 and 95 points. I don't know what's going to happen with Chelsea. Liverpool, as we know, could just be Liverpool of 18 months ago, where they beat everybody. They're keeping clean sheets and they're winning 3 or 4-0. Salah's on fire, Mane's on fire, the team's got rhythm, everything's back to normal. Klopp's a fantastic manager. On the other hand, they could be the team that struggles and can't find consistency. I don't know with Liverpool, but what I will say is, I think United will finish above Liverpool this season. It's a prediction. It might blow up terribly. It might not happen at all. But I do think United will finish above Liverpool this year. And that doesn't mean Liverpool will have a bad season, but I do think we're going to finish above Liverpool. And the reason for that is I think Liverpool will struggle with consistency. I think they've lost that invincibility. And I think, most importantly, I don't really think it's the likes of Burnley and Brighton and everybody else and Everton beating them at Anfield, because that wasn't Anfield. It's not Anfield if it hasn't got tens of thousands of Liverpool fans in there. But I think the problem that Liverpool might have is the damage it did to them last season. They've lost that air of invincibility. I think Klopp's lost it, and I think the players have lost it. And they might get it back, and I might be completely wrong. But I've been watching football for a very long time, and I've seen teams that look unbeatable, and then they lose a few games, and it plays on their head that they're no longer unbeatable. And I just think Liverpool might drop some points. They might drop some points. Probably not at the start. Norwich is a very easy game for them first off. But I think Liverpool might drop some silly points again this season. Comfortably top 4, but I'm not convinced they're going to go with Man City. I'm not convinced. I mean, look, the best case scenario for me would be that United are ridiculously consistent, Chelsea are consistent, Liverpool are consistent, Man City are consistent, and it's a 4-way. I'd love to see a 4-way. But I don't know. I don't know whether that's going to happen. I worry about our consistency as well. Angel Gomez is winning trophies at Lille. Hannibal could leave if he doesn't get starts for the first team, says Zane. Yeah, I mean, what I would say about Ahmad and Hannibal is that I think that they are ridiculously talented players. 2 of the most talented young players we've had at the club in a long time. I'd put them into the same sentence as Greenwood. I don't know whether they're going to be as good as Greenwood. Maybe they'll be better than Greenwood. But I do think you've got 2 very talented players there that ultimately should be playing more football. And they cannot just be kept at the club next year to play 2 or 3 games. That would be a travesty. Especially for Ahmad. Well, for both of them really. But for Ahmad's already come on and scored a really important goal in the second half of the Europa League tie against Milan. Ahmad's played as a false 9 against Wolves. He's played in the bloody Olympics. Ahmad is not Hannibal. He is not Shoretire. He is actually ready and needs to be used. I'm surprised how little press Ahmad is getting from our fans and the media. It's almost like, oh, he's a good player, but let's forget about him. He is massively talented. When we got him, the Italian press, the Italian journalists, Italian players that had trained with him, they couldn't shut up about what a great player he is. They didn't need to do that. They just lost him to Manchester United out of the league. They didn't need to say what a great player he is. We've seen those glimpses. When he first came training with United, I was told by somebody very close to training that he's tearing it up. He's absolutely tearing it up. He's unbelievably talented. But for some reason, it's not captured the fan imagination. I think everyone acknowledges it, but no one's really pushing it, saying this guy needs to be involved. And really, it's probably because we've got Sancho, and everyone knows James and Lingard are going to stay. But his path to the first team is blocked. And ultimately, his performance against Wolves in that last game of the season where he played as a false 9 against people like Connor Cody. What a performance that was. As a 9, not as a winger, not as a little timid, not very physical winger, as a number 9. Technically fantastic. And he 100% should be playing for Manchester United this season and regularly. But I just don't see how it's going to happen for Ahmad. And the fact that we're loaning him, I think, is an absolute... If we loan him, I think it's a real coward job, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, look, maybe I sound a little bit over the top about Ahmed, but I firmly believe that his talent befits that, and he's almost being forgotten, which is a shame because I think he's a fantastic player. Mark, we also need a lot of luck with injury as well as consistency. Then maybe, says Andy and Bruno. Well, yes and no. We've got a big squad. I really think we need to give Sancho the time and leeway to adjust the Premier League a few months until he really kicks off, in my opinion. Very excited, says Mehdi. And Imrano TV, thanks for the super chat. He says, hi Mark, in theory we can have the 4th best squad and still win it. Just have to beat the 15 other teams home and away. Easier said than done. I just mean being consistent is more important than having the best squad. Imrano TV, you know one thing. Well, it's not even one thing. I think Jose Mourinho gets a lot of bad press because he's basically finished in the Premier League. But there was a time, and some of you will remember it, when Jose Mourinho was the best manager in the world. And one of the things I always hated about Mourinho in a sporting sense, because we used to suffer for it, United, is that Jose Mourinho, if you think about Mourinho in his prime, Inter, Chelsea, Real Madrid, he was the master. And I remember Sir Alex Ferguson talking about this. He was, and I'm going to come back to that Sancho point in a minute, but Jose Mourinho was the master at looking at a 38-game season and knowing exactly when a draw was a good draw and when a draw was a bad result. He would look at the 38 games and he would go, win there, win there, win there, win there. We can afford to draw there if we win there, win there, win. And he'd get a points tally in his mind that he knew would win the league. Now, whether you could do that in the modern game, when you look at what Man City and Liverpool have done at times, is very different. But prime Mourinho probably could, because he'd just adapt. That's what Solskjaer needs to do. I think Solskjaer publicly talks about fine margins a lot, doesn't he? Fine margins. He talks about fine margins. He talks about luck of the draw. Those things are not going to make you consistent. Fine margins, Ollie needs to shut up about fine margins. I think too many times in the last 2 years, if I'm a player under Ollie, I'm almost given an excuse. He publicly talks about fine margins and, you know, it can go either way. Well, that sort of gives everyone an excuse to not win. We need to be very, very forthright and focused on what we're trying to achieve every single game, which is like what I said last night. These first 6 games, if you want to be in a title challenge, you better take 18 points. And it's not that he has to say we're going to take 18 points, because every game is a game in itself. But starting with Leeds, that's got to be 3 points, lads. Southampton away, that's got to be 3 points, lads. Wolves away, that's got to be 3 points. And he's got to go into the games with that. I think sometimes we go into these games wanting to win, but then within the game we're like, oh, it's not a bad point. It is a bad point if you've highlighted that you need to get 3 points to be in a title race. And that's how it's ruthless. You've got to take a ruthless Mourinho approach to a season. Pep probably does it in a very different way. Don't really know how Pep does it. But I know Mourinho did it in a way where he compartmentalised each month and went, out of these 4 games, we need to take 10 points. And that's what United need to do this season. Any news on any upgrades at Old Trafford? Thoughts on signing Paul McShane, says Zane? Well, I don't really have any thoughts on that because he's a coach, isn't he? And upgrades at the moment, it's gone very, very quiet. It's Donny says Varane medical done. Apparently it's half done, but it will be announced tomorrow anyway. In relation to Sancho, I think it's a very good point to refresh our mind. I think Sancho's a fantastic player. When we signed Bruno Fernandes, I was very confident, even though it was January. And I remember Gary Neville saying it's a January signing, you might have to wait for him to adapt. I said, look, been following Bruno for the last 2 years, desperately wanted him to come to United for the last 18 months. He will hit the ground running. That's the sort of mentality he's got. That's the sort of player he is. He's a stat padder. He gets goals. He gets assists. That's what the sort of player he is. And he came in and he did it. He delivered from day one, Bruno. With Sancho, it doesn't make him any less of a player. And he could hit the ground running. But I think with Sancho, as a fan base, we've got to wrap him up and be protective of him. We've got a fantastic young player here, but he might not start the season in those 6 games with 5 goals and 6 assists. He might not get a goal. He might not get an assist. I'm sure he probably will do, but if he doesn't, I won't be panicking, and I don't think you should be as well. He's never played Premier League football. He's done fantastically well in the Champions League, and he's done very well in the Bundesliga. He didn't get picked for England much. That might be a hint that something's not quite right with him yet in relation to the pace of the way we play or something. I think if I was a betting person, I think Sancho will hit the ground running, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't, but it doesn't make him a flop if he does. This is a long-term world-class player, hopefully, and the first 3 months aren't going to define his first 3 years. So, got to be patient with him. Don't expect too much. He might be a young player. He might try and do too much. Ollie might need to rein him in. In his first few games, he might be trying to do too much to, hit the ground running, and Ollie might have to say, look, keep it a bit simple. Have a 7 out of 10 game instead of pushing it and ending up with a 5 out of 10. Yeah, you could get 10 out of 10, but you might have a bad game because you're pushing it too much. So I think patience is key with Sancho. Let's see what happens. We might be pleasantly surprised. We might have to be a bit patient with him, but I think we've got a great player there. With Varane, it's very different. You're bringing a 28-year-old in who's won it all, and I would expect him to be on the money from the start. The worst case scenario with Varane is he just doesn't get to grips with the Premier League for whatever reason. And it is different. It is different. The pace of it's different. The tenacity of it's 100 miles an hour. But if he can get used to that, his technical ability will knock him up another level. Palestri's there too, who's another great talent. Yeah, but Palestri's on loans, Ahmad. So, at least he is out the equation. I feel Ollie is risk averse and doesn't give youth a chance unless they're a sure thing. This season will dictate if he's able to take a few more risks on that front if the team is settled and winning, says Shane Esty. I mean, all I can say is this. On a positive, I think Dan James would be a very good player for Brighton. I think he'd be a very good player for Watford. I think he'd be a very good player for Norwich. And I think he'd be a very good player for Leeds, the way they play. At Manchester United, if I've got a choice between Dan James and Ahmad, I'm going with Ahmad every day of the week because I think Ahmad's ceiling is like a church, and I think Dan James' ceiling is like Bilbo Baggins' house. Like, it's not very high. Whereas Dan James, he's going all the way up that spire. It's a massive ceiling. And I think Ahmad is the future and he should be playing games. When we picked Dan James, and I know Ricky won't like it, when we picked Dan James, I think we picked Dan James for the way Ricky says. Because he's a system player who'll put a shift in. He'll do a job for you. But as me and Adam were saying on Sunday night, we're Manchester United. We don't need Dan James to do a shift at Leeds, at home to Leeds. We're Manchester United. We need to be Manchester United. So, look, does that fit in with what you're saying, though? Is Ollie risk averse? You play Dan James. All right, he's probably going to put 6 or 7 out of 10 as a player rating, but he's going to put a shift in and he's going to work hard on the left-hand side, and you're going to keep that left-hand side secure. You play Ahmad, you might beat Leeds 4-0 and he might have a worldie connecting with Shaw. It's a risk. And I think Ollie probably is a bit risk averse. He went risk averse for against Everton back in October when he was going to lose his job. And he never looked back. And we finished second in the league. It's whether only Ollie can change. Ollie can't win the league being risk averse, but he can finish second. He's done it before. This year he needs to let the reins off. And the reins off isn't just not playing McFred. The reins off isn't just playing a higher line. The reins off isn't just creating more chances. The reins off is not using players that really don't befit what Manchester United are. System players have their place, but we've got worldies. We've got some worldy talents here that can be brilliant. Ahmad is so brilliant technically as well. Himanshu, I think Amad Diallo is, for some reason, a little bit underrated. I don't know why, by the fan base. He doesn't get the focus I think he should. He's not. I've not heard anybody talking about Ahmad. I don't even know when Ahmad's back. The press don't talk about him. The fans don't really talk about him in the way that we should do. He's an amazing talent. We spent 35 million quid on him. Like, he's an amazing talent, and he's almost been forgotten. And I don't know why. I don't know why. And we need to talk about him more because he shouldn't be going on loan. How many games do you see Donny playing this season, says S. Ahmed. He's another one. He's another one. He's another one for me. I think... you know what? As excited as I am about the game against Leeds, there's almost this feeling of sick in my stomach as well. That I can't see how you don't pick Matic and Donny. But I'm expecting that team news to come out and neither of them start. And it's going to be McTominay and Pogba or Fred and Pogba. And I'm like, Donny's totally deserves to play in that game with Matic. But, you know, it's almost like Ollie's first big test is his first game. And we can beat Leeds with Pogba and Fred. And I prefer Fred and Pogba to McTominay and Pogba. But I must admit, when that team news comes out, I'll be like, I've got to press the reset button here and just get positive again. Because realistically, it should be Matic and Donny. And if Donny doesn't start against Leeds, in my mind, I'm like, it's more of the same again, isn't it? What more can he do to start games? It's all right, oh, you're on the bench, Donny. I'll give you 10 minutes every month. He's more than that. He is more than that. For me, Donny van der Beek starts for Spurs. He starts for Arsenal. He starts for Leicester. You know, does Fred start for those teams? Does McTominay start for those teams? I think it's a different answer. Does Donny start for Chelsea? Probably not. Does he start for Liverpool? Probably not. Does he start for Man City? Probably not. But that doesn't mean he doesn't start for us, because we're a top 4 side. How can Donny start for a top 4 side when he's not been given any chances? But on what we've seen of him, he would start for Leicester. He would start for Arsenal and Spurs and obviously West Ham and everyone else. He deserves to start. He needs some game time. I think Chelsea and Liverpool would get the best out of Van der Beek. And it's down to Ollie to get the best out of Van der Beek as well. I honestly want him to leave United because what is this treatment? Well, look, we don't know that yet, Ahmed. Let's wait and see. But yeah, I think Donny van der Beek would be a starter for Real Madrid if he went there. He would take over from a Modric or a Cruz over the next couple of years. I think Barcelona would use him as well. I think Barcelona would use anybody at the moment, wouldn't they? Fred would start ahead of El Nini, says Marvin AM. And Van der Beek and Gundogan are similar players, says Nathaniel. The horrible thing for me about Donny van der Beek is that I think he's a fantastic player. When we bought him, I was excited because I know what sort of player he is. That technical player with great energy is heaven made for the Premier League. The horrible thing I don't like about Van der Beek is that I know. And it's very rare. It's like I knew Bruno would be perfect for United. Had no reason to think that. He plays in Portugal for Sporting Lisbon, but I just knew Bruno was going to be perfect for United. With Van der Beek, I think if we gave him 8 games without dropping him, or even 6 games without dropping him in that box-to-box role, he would get better and better and better and would never look back. And part of me has even at times wondered if that's why we're not using him, because they almost know if they use him, they'll never be able to drop him again. And then what do they do with Pogba? And what do they do with McTominay? And what do they do with Fred? I know that sounds far-fetched and that probably isn't right, but I'm absolutely convinced that if we did play him for 5 or 6 games in a row in that midfield, he would get better and better and would become undroppable. I even felt at times last year he was undroppable and he still got dropped. I feel the reason behind there not being hype around Ahmed is because of his nationality. If he was English, the English press would be all over him. Yeah, Nicholas, we've seen that time and time again, haven't we? This preference for British talent over foreign players in the press. YUFC says, for once, I'm not worried about the beginning of the season. I have a feeling we'll have a good start and strong start as well. Well, I hope we do, YUFC. I really, really do. I really, really do. Hi, Mark. Your thoughts about Calvin Phillips? Says Desiree. Mate, you've just named a midfielder there that I wouldn't be opposed to Manchester United signing. And there's probably 10 or 15, to be honest. Somebody said Zakaria this morning. We've obviously mentioned Basuma and Neves before and Camavinga. You've just said Calvin Phillips. Somebody said Tonali tonight. Kamara's been mentioned from Italy. From France. Koopmeiners has been mentioned. I really do think there's probably 10 to 15. Zanderberg's been mentioned tonight as well. There's 10 to 15 options that United could go for to hold our midfield. And, you know, the question has to be, will we get one? Simple as that. Will we get one? Locatelli, yeah, definitely. Lots of options. And, you know, it'd be a shame if we don't get one. Do you think it's a great chance for Martial as he gets a run of games at the start of the season since Marcus is out and Cavani is not available, says Sumya? Well, the only thing I'd say about Martial is I don't think he looked particularly fit last week. So whilst it's an opportunity against Leeds, he might not be fully fit for that game. He is only just coming back, and Ollie did drop that as a hint. So, you know, it's probably more of an opportunity. Well, I think Dan James will start against Leeds. Ollie just seems to think Dan James and Leeds works well. And all I'd say about that Leeds game, and we'll touch on it in the preview on Thursday, is people think about the Man United against Leeds and they get lost in the December game. You do realise we played them again and we drew at Ellen Road. And Dan James didn't play very well in that game. So everyone talks about the 6-2 game. Oh, McTominay and Fred were brilliant and Dan James was brilliant. And they were. But we played them again. And Bielsa was like, I ain't doing that again. You're not gonna take advantage of all this space again. So people forget about that second game. Anyway, look, really enjoyed the show tonight. The excitement builds. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We'll be back tomorrow morning with a news show. And at some point tomorrow, we will be going live with Varane, Manchester United official. At some point tomorrow. Maybe Thursday, but I think it will be tomorrow, maybe tomorrow afternoon. So keep your eyes out for that. But we'll be back in the morning with the morning show. We're getting very close now. We're 48... 62 hours away from Arsenal-Brighton, the first Premier League game, and not a little bit longer that, and it's Man United against Leeds. Very, very excited. Can't wait. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care, and I will speak to you very soon. And thanks everyone who's been watching the content today, of course. And I'll speak to you tomorrow. Have a great evening, day, whatever you're doing. Speak to you in a bit.